Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. It's Friday. You know what that means.
Front Office Friday, late afternoon edition.
Late afternoon edition. Let's go. That's right. We had conflicting schedules at other
Yeah,
parts of the day, so we're jumping
crazy
on
day.
a little bit later than normal. But here, God, I was just thinking this, Keith. Jeremy said, "So here's to hoping something happens live." I was. I'm like, might I have to use the breaking news button during today's show?
Man, that'd
Like
be
that could
amazing.
happen.
I would love it. I would love it if we did. It's always fun when we get a little live breaking news and we get something going on. So let's hope.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be a good time. I do think, I know we've said it like the last couple of weekends. I don't remember if we said it on the show, but at least you and I talking about it have said, you know what? I think we're going to be working this weekend on front office, meaning something's going to happen.
Yeah.
I I think something's going to happen this weekend. I know that's just a total gut feeling, but I think something goes down this weekend.
Yeah, I think there is no chance that we get a Jimmy Butler trade that comes down on Thursday just because it's going to be too big. It's not something you're going to let take all the way till you get to the end of the deadline. So, yeah, I think we're in a spot where we may get that trade comes early. I'm not saying that's definitely this weekend. Maybe it is. Who knows? I just saw on the tail end of that message, maybe the Warriors are waiting till Schroeder can be aggregated. And
Mhm.
now that would be on the 5th if they're going to trade for Jimmy Butler. That could be something that's going down. But yeah, I think it's going to be really, really fun throughout the course of the week. I think we're going to get several trades throughout the course of this week. And I think there's going to be some really big ones. There's way too many big names actually available. Not like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe, maybe they could do this. These are like guys who are legit available. Everyone you talk to, every report you get. So I think there is a real chance we see some major trades go down.
Yeah, which is exciting, and there's always room for those out of nowhere, like whoa,
Yeah.
nobody was talking about that guy type trades, which is so much fun.
Yep.
I will address this real quick. I've got a number of people in the chat asking about my daughter, which thank you guys for
Oh
checking.
yeah.
I did the front office show or the Lakers Nation show, the live play by play from my living room last night because my daughter was on the couch. I didn't want to leave her to be up in the studio here. She is right now down on the couch. I just checked in with her and she's feeling a bit better, but she did test positive for the flu this morning, which is what we expected. Had a rough morning, but feeling a bit better right now. She's resting. And after this, I'm running off to the store to get to pick up her meds that they sent in. So we'll see. Kids bounce back pretty quick, but yeah, wasn't a fun 24 hours for her. That's for sure.
Yeah, this flu is no joke, man.
Yeah.
It wiped me and my whole family out. A month ago now because it was when we got back from our cruise. But yeah, I hope everybody ends up okay. So yeah, I'm we're rooting for you, and we're hoping you don't have too much to deal with here.
Dude, I'm like constantly washing my hands. I'm like, please
Yeah, right.
don't give me this. Don't give me this.
And I'm sure you're in a spot where you're like, this is not the week for me to
Oh,
go
exactly.
down and get sick. Yeah,
That
exactly.
can't that can't happen. That can't happen. All right, Keith, is there anything that was really top of mind that you wanted to dive into to start the show that you've been dying to talk about, or should we just get into some of our chat questions?
Yeah, no, I think just a couple things like I mentioned, the big names that we know are actually available. So we got Darren Fox available, Jimmy Butler available, Brandon Ingram available. Now we're hearing some of the Hawks guys,
Yeah.
Bogdanovich, in addition to Clint Capella, the Nets, like the entire roster, the Bulls, almost their entire roster. I mean, these are a lot of teams that are like, we're ready to move. Yeah, we're ready to do stuff. And I think, as I've been saying for several weeks now, nobody fears the Thunder and the Cavaliers as like these unbeatable teams. They've come back to the pack quite a bit. Neither one of them, they were both on 70 plus win paces for a long time.
Mhm.
Neither team's going to win 70 games. Like that's not going to be a thing. So now it's like, all right, yeah, we can get them. We can beat them. And I think you've got these teams that are like, we can get, somebody to help put us over the top against those teams. In addition to those two teams, I think feeling like maybe we've got a move or two in us. And I think that's going to be really, really great about this deadline where they're in the past few years, there haven't been like the hardcore sellers like we
Yeah.
have this year. And there haven't been these teams that are like, yeah, we're a guy or two away, and I think we do have that. I think that's going to make it really really interesting here as we go into the trade deadline. Over the next 6 days, I guess.
And that's what we've been talking about, even since the summer. Just that the market dynamics are different this year than we've seen in the past few years. There's been a bunch of buyers, and the selling group and the players that those sellers will be willing to part with has been relatively small. And so that's created a difficult situation to see real, fireworks take place. But this year it's different, and part of it has to do, of course, with this crop of NBA draft players coming in. The guys at the top. So that's given motivation for the sellers to sell. Yep. These teams want to get worse, and there's plenty of buyers who do feel like they're a piece or two away. So you've got the right conditions for some big stuff to happen, in spite of the new CBA. So plenty of stuff for us to get into there. Grind hard. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll just say appreciate you for hoping my daughter gets better soon. Thanks. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it just sucks when it's the kiddos, man.
Yes,
like when it's us, it's like, all right, I'll sit in the bed and binge watch something and figure it out. When it's the kids, it's just you just want to take it away from them, right? And it just feels bad. What I was laughing about was people were saying, "Bless you." You were looking into the camera talking, and you had a major sneeze. Thankfully, I got it muted at the time.
At some point I need to set it so I can, like in the professional setups, the camera, you can see the screen right next to the camera. That's not my camera. My screen's here. My camera's up there. But yeah. So I didn't see that. But that was well done though by you.
Yeah. Hey, I got it muted in time. That's
got it muted. That's what I'm saying. You got to that mute button.
That's it, man. We don't have the cough button like they do on a real broadcast, but as long as you can hit that mute button pretty quick, you can get there. So yeah. I think too, one of the things that I'll say with this trade deadline as well, that I think is going to be a lot of fun. You mentioned it, the draft class, and I'll just shout out the basketball bulletin. I have not done NBA game notes the last couple of days because there haven't been very many good games. Last night, other than Rockets Grizzlies, every game was a blowout. In blowouts, I don't do them unless something really worth calling out jumps out. So what I did last night was, because the Lakers game was over 5.5 minutes in. They had, the Wizards are
God, they're bad. They're so bad.
So bad. And I forget what the other game was. Cavs Hawks, that was done early. I caught up on college games. In a lot of this past week's college games. And I actually had a chance today because I've kind of written all my trade deadline stuff. Now I'm in hurry up and wait mode to react to things. I started prepping my big board in the written piece there. So I'll have a new big board out this weekend for the basketball bulletin, unless we get buried in a deluge of trades over the weekend, which I don't think will probably happen. But if it does, then that's going to have to wait. But if it doesn't, I'm going to get that out this weekend. So for anybody looking for draft stuff, I'll have a whole bunch of new draft stuff, bunch of new notes, hopefully some clips as well from some of the prospects.
Nice. Exciting stuff over on the basketball bulletin. Exciting stuff going on over there. You guys definitely need to check that out. I'll grab a link for it in just a second here. Keith, what do you do with stuff like this? Like the local news reporting that Fox to Spurs is close as part of a 4-team deal, but when it's not a tradition, because we get this sometimes in the LA market too, when it's not like we had somebody years ago saying like Kawhi to the Lakers was happening and all this, and then of course it didn't wind up not traditional NBA newsbreakers that pop up, but actual like news people. Sure. How do you weigh that kind of stuff?
It's tough. Often I just wait because I think sometimes it is. Yeah, we've talked this, and that turns into this is close. And I don't know Don Harris, so I'm not by all means saying he's not spot on or anything like that. Once in a while in the really small markets, because this used to happen here in Orlando, there were a couple local reporters who got they would get the stories before the big time reporters would, just because that's how they operated. It was, we're going to give it to our guys. So sometimes they are spot on. Sometimes they get it. Sometimes too, it just happens to be you're around, right? And you just happen to be there when, somebody talks, they're a lot of the local guys are really, really good. It's when it's like a complete random person on Twitter, things like that. That's where I'm like, those ones I tend to hang off on, especially if it's like somebody who 99 rumors a day, and none of them are ever correct. Those ones I really just,
Yeah.
I in one ear out the other. I don't even pay attention to. So it's also always weird for me when it's like super local dialed in beat guy is reporting on a trade between two teams that aren't, like if it's a
That aren't
Boston
their
beat
team.
guy reporting on a team. Sorry, this was just the tweet came, but nothing major. I got excited because I was like, "Oh, Phoenix Suns, what now?" But it wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, local like Boston Celtics beat writer reporting on trade between the Lakers and the Clippers. Like,
Right.
why would you get that? Like, that doesn't make sense that you would get that news. So those ones I tend to kind of go in one ear and out the other. But yeah, I mean, this could be. I mean, we all know Fox wants the Spurs, and Spurs presumably want him if they can get him. So let's see. Now if we don't get news on this in the next hour or two, probably jump the gun. It wasn't as close as they thought, and we go from there. So one of the, it was just Ryan Dunn. It was from the NBA. It's Ryan Dunn, Anthony Black, and Tamani Kamara and Osar Thompson have been added as replacement players for the Rising Star Challenge. So that's all it was.
There you go. As far as somebody asked, here it is, Suns Jam Session Podcast, thoughts on Phoenix local John Gambadoro.
Yeah,
I lived
John,
in the Phoenix.
If it's Sun stuff, he's all over it.
Gambo is great. I lived in the Phoenix market for 13 years, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, just anything Suns related, he is on it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so speaking of the Fox thing, let's say the whole Fox to the Spurs thing is, and we know it's real and that he wants to go there, they want him, all of that kind of stuff. Can the Spurs get it done without Castle? Because I saw a lot of that today, that the Spurs don't want to give up Castle, but I look at it from the Sacramento side, I'm like, I'm not trading him unless I'm getting Castle. I don't know that I like the other stuff from San Antonio enough.
Yeah, it starts to come down to, if I'm the Kings and I can get off Kevin Huerter too, then I might be a little more willing to be like, all right, I'm getting off this contract as well. Then maybe I start to feel a little bit better about not getting Stephon Castle. I saw one report was they don't want to trade Stephon Castle or Devin Vassell, and it's like, all right, well, at some point you got to match salary. So where are we going? You're not, no offense, but you're not getting them for Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins. Like that's not going to be the primary package that goes. The Spurs have, it's like 1 million draft picks too. So there's all kinds of picks they could send out. They've got Atlanta's pick. They've got a swap with Sacramento where they could just wipe out that swap. That was from the absorbing Harrison Barnes contract. The one thing that I do believe that I have heard over the course of this week, they're not very likely to move Chris Paul. Even if they get De'Aaron Fox, they love Chris Paul in San Antonio. He's very happy there. It would take Chris Paul saying, I don't want to be here anymore, and then maybe they look into it, but they believe we could probably make it work and just figure out, play the two of them together some and go. And I think that's the way it'll go. But yeah, I don't know. I think, if I'm sending out Stephon Castle, then all right, I want De'Aaron Fox, and can you throw in Keon Ellis or something like that, where like now I'm getting two nice players and I'm going to send you the rookie. There are balances you can do, but I tend to think it's probably not going to involve him, and the Spurs will plus it up in another way.
Yeah. That would be my fear if I was a Kings fan right now, that I'm going to do the deal and not get Castle. But I think that's the piece I got to get back if I'm the Kings, and I worry that they're going to go Kangs and not get him back.
Yeah, I mean, there are constructions where I'd be like, okay, I'm still okay with it, even if they get.
Well, is it just the Spurs overwhelmed with so many firsts?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
We sent you extra first. Maybe Devin Vassell was in the trade. They also took back Kevin Huerter's contract. Like, I can be like, okay, I can kind of see why you'd go this direction. Kings, really, it's very, very interesting. And Mark Stein had some reporting on this today too, and then I don't know if you saw DeMar DeRozan's quotes. He did the Run It Back show on FanDuel, the one with Michelle Beadle. So I'll fill you in here. So, Lou Williams, former, six-man extraordinaire, asked him, hey, are you in a, like, where's your head at, basically, if De'Aaron Fox gets traded? And DeMar DeRozan very candidly said, yeah, I'd have to think about, like, what is my future with this
Ah,
organization? Because Fox was a big reason I came here and all that. So now that's not him saying Fox gets traded, I'm out. I think that's more of you trade Fox and you don't get back guys who are going to keep us in contention for the postseason. I'm out. He also said in that interview, which I thought was neat, was he fully intends to sign and retire with the Toronto Raptors. Now that could be a one-day thing,
hmm.
and he retires that way. That could be how that goes down. But yeah, I was gonna say this too on Stephon Castle. I like Stephon Castle plenty, but I think people are getting a little over their skis on this. With I don't know that he's going to be this incredible All NBA level guy and all that because he just can't shoot. So that part I really worry about. And there's no real signs that that jumper is going to come along yet. It's still very early. It may. He's a great defensive player. He knows what he's doing on that end of the floor. But I can tell you, too, the Spurs are now part of the reason why they're thinking, let's go get De'Aaron Fox. They're starting to think about Stephon Castle as, let's think of him as a wing versus ever being a true on-ball playmaker.
That makes sense. That makes sense. There was some talk out there that the Spurs believe that Castle will be as good as De'Aaron Fox in a few years, and maybe they are that high
I
on him.
mean, it
But
could be.
interesting to see, how he grows. Some games he looks great. Other games, he's not so great. Just depends
Sure.
on which night you catch him, which is a lot of rookies are like that. A lot of rookies are like that. They have the inconsistency. If you are the Kings and DeRozan says, I don't know if I want to be here anymore. Like, what do they do? I don't like. What would his market even be right now, given his contract?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird, right? I remember he was in free agency forever.
Yeah,
Into the summer. We were into Las Vegas Summer League, I think it was starting, or maybe it was the very end of the Sacramento Summer League. I think it actually was that. But yeah, we'll see, where that comes along. So, I don't know. I could see some team saying, all right, we'll do it. Because remember that last year, that's only 10 million guaranteed. So there's a good chance that, he ends up in a spot where it's like, okay, we're really talking a 34 million bucks after this season left on the deal. Not the end of the world. So I don't
yeah,
know. Somebody said, would Beal accept his no trade clause to the Kings? I'm going to guess no.
yeah.
That would be my guess.
All right, let's jump into some of our questions and comments here. This is an easy one. Can the Lakers still absorb a player with the MLE? Nope, they don't have the MLE.
Yep.
So
correct.
that's easy. Chief Keith and Latrev, what's the long-term effect of teams not wanting long-term contracts? Could we see shorter term and smaller contracts? I've made the point a bunch of times that the moves we've seen so far, it's been expiring contracts that have been moving, and teams have been very adamant about not wanting to take back long-term salary under the current CBA. Would that be the case with longer term contracts, perhaps more difficult to trade than ever now? Does that flip it into a bunch of do we see 2-year deals be more in vogue? And then I do wonder if we see. So Keith, I always think back to, remember we used to have 7-year, even more than that, right? We had like Magic Johnson had a 20-year contract and stuff, right? But
for like
we
20 million bucks too, which was really funny.
Exactly. It was like $1 million. Oh my God, you're going to make $1 million a year.
Oh no.
Right? It was crazy.
Now that's the league minimum salary.
Right. It's insane. But anyway, they cut down from 7 years. I think they went to 5. I think they went from 7 to 6, and then they went down again. So anyway, the bottom line is they cut the number of years that salaries could happen. It could be extended for, and it led to, I think, the unintended consequence of the player empowerment era, because now players are free agents more often. They have more opportunities to go and be free agents at the same time, which allowed them to team up, allowed them to hold more control of the organization because they had their free agency sitting there to use as leverage. I do wonder if we do see shorter term contracts. Now, obviously not for the star level players. They're still going to get 4 years, but shorter term contracts for everybody else. Does that create even more roster movement around the league?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be disrespectful of the question because it's a fair question. I think the real answer is no. We're probably not going to see less long-term contracts because players want to lock in security. They don't start doing the short-term contract until you're running into over 38 rule issues and those kind of things. That's where that comes out of. And then from the team side, if I can get a player who I really like locked up, that gives me the control. I can hang on to that much longer. Now, guys still ask for trades. We see it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. But yeah, I think it is very likely that this just kind of goes along as it has been. What you may see be different is Patrick Williams, great example, got the 5-year contract. That's a new change. It used to be in the rookie scale. If you were going to give it a 5-year deal, it had to be a max deal. And then they changed that where you don't have to give a max now. You can just give out a 5-year deal to anybody. Those I think you might see go away. Where it is, man, this contract now is a little bigger than what we want to have, runs a little longer, gonna be a little harder to move. But the star level guys, they'll still get their 4 and 5-year deals without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's go here. Senpai says Phoenix gets, it's a hypothetical trade, Vanderbilt, Davion Mitchell. And remember, I don't think teams are going to be, climbing over themselves here to get Jared Vanderbilt when he's got 3 years remaining on his deal. And there's still plenty of injury concerns, but okay. Toronto gets Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish, and Nurkic. Okay, so Phoenix is shedding Nurkic. And a first-round pick from Phoenix. So Phoenix is given a first to turn Nurkic into Vando and Davion Mitchell. And then the Lakers get Bruce Brown and Tyus. So they're giving up Tyus Jones too. Yeah. I don't know if I do that if I'm Phoenix. Who is least desirable, Vanderbilt or Nurkic? I guess it would depend on the eye of the beholder because Vando's contract is cheaper but runs much longer.
Yeah, I think the issue too is the Lakers are getting off Vando's contract and getting Bruce and Jones, who would be immediate rotation upgrades for 2 seconds. That's not enough value going out on their side because Cam Reddish doesn't have any value trade wise. So yeah, I mean, probably not. I don't think Phoenix would like it. I don't think Toronto would do it.
And if you're a Lakers fan and you've seen Jared Vanderbilt play the last few games, you're probably going, don't trade that dude. That dude's awesome, right? Right. He's great. But the question is his health. He would have, if he stays healthy for like a year or something, then they probably don't have to give up anything to get him off the rock because you go, well, if he's a healthy player and he's doing this stuff every night, he's worth the money that he's getting. But right now, that's not the case. Him just playing a few games is not enough to get rid of the negative of not playing for nearly a year. That's not the way that's going to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Randall for Tobias saves Minnie some money. Randall plays better with the primary ball handler, likes to pass, and Tobias is so good at staying out of the way, you hardly notice he's on the court. Is this like a backhanded compliment at Tobias Harris? He's so good at staying out of the way that you don't even notice he's on the floor.
So funny. That was like my long-term criticism of Tobias Harris was like, he plays too many games and you don't even know he's out there. So that just makes me laugh.
Yeah. So what do you think about that though? How badly does Minnesota want to save money? I guess is really the question there.
Yeah, I mean you're absolutely right. That is what it comes down to. Like where are we at if we're the Timberwolves? Are we looking to just shed money out of this? It's not that Tobias Harris is a bad player. I mean, this makes sense. You'd have to send something else. It's not just going to be straight up those guys. I think Minnesota would have to send some other thing to Detroit to make this work. Doesn't need to be huge, but just enough to say, hey, we are taking on 10 million more in salary. Plus next year's salary is again roughly because Randall's salary drops. So I think it's like 5 million more. But yeah, I don't know. I think we're in a spot where I would probably not want to do that. I'd probably want to just go the other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just ride it out with what I have. Both sides.
Doug, not Dave McMenamin, says prayers for both you guys and family. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Davion, Rui, JHS, Gabe, and a first and 2 seconds for Giddey. And I don't think moving Giddey is what the Bulls want to do.
Yeah.
Right now. They just he's part of their young future. What's that?
If I was the Bulls, I would do that.
You would do that because
I'm not super high on Giddey. It's the first is what I would want.
The first is what you want, especially since it'd be at 2029. I mean, let's face it, Jalen Hood-Schifino, I hope he gets traded for his own sake and he gets healthy and that he gets a fresh look somewhere. It's not working where he's at right now. Yep. But he's got to get healthy too. He's been out with a hamstring injury for
Jalen Hood-Schifino, I'd love to see land on Washington or
Yeah,
Brooklyn or somewhere where he can get 15, 20 minutes a night the rest of the way, see
consistently.
what it looks like, and then move forward from there. So,
Yeah.
and then if I'm the Bulls too, now I'm passing on the issue. It's so funny talking to people all around the league. Nobody knows like what you should pay Josh Giddey this summer as a
Oh
free agent
yeah.
because everybody's like,
What
I
do you
don't know
do?
what to make of him. They're like, one night he looks awesome, and then the next night he looks completely terrible because he can't shoot. His defense is wildly inconsistent. Where do you go? So that just kind of makes me laugh.
Let's go here. Trajan said, "Hey guys, haven't missed an episode on Spotify in over a year. First live stream I'm hopping into.
Let's
Keep it up.
go.
Wishing you all the best. Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, thanks
Appreciate
for
you
joining.
coming in and joining the show.
Appreciate
And
you.
thanks for being a listener over on Spotify. We definitely appreciate you.
Yep.
Another 3-team trade. I guess in this Brooklyn gets Rui JHS a 2029 first. And Orlando gets a first swap. Orlando gets Cam Johnson and Cam Reddish. So Orlando turns KCP and
Swap.
a swap into Cam Johnson and
the
Cam
Magic would
Reddish.
be all over that. Lakers
Yeah.
would just cut Orlando out and take Cam Johnson.
And take Cam Johnson, right? Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a nostalgia trade.
I haven't looked like
KCP.
I keep waiting and I keep telling people like, no, KCP goes through long slumps shooting it, but then he comes out of it.
It's a long slump.
It's a long slump. I'm like,
he's been really bad.
What's going on?
Yeah, he walked through the vortex at MCO Airport and forgot how to shoot. That's what happens to everybody the Magic get, apparently.
Well, I mean, that airport is an experience, so I get it. I get it.
I like our little airport. It doesn't. I mean, but that's my home airport now.
So. It can be.
There's just a lot.
It's a lot, and there can be a lot of people in there at the same time. Like it's a very, but it depends on what time. Other times I've gone through there, and I'm like, oh, this is great. There's hardly anybody here, and all that other time. But sometimes I'm like, oh my god, if I see one more child with mouse ears on with like 50 pieces of luggage, I'm gonna lose it. It depends on the time when you get there.
Yep.
Diego says, has one of your favorite players ever been traded from your respective teams? I still remember when Derek Fisher was traded for Jordan Hill. I remember that too.
Yeah, I mean,
it's happened.
For me, it was Pierce and Garnett when they did the Nets trade. I wasn't mad. I wasn't like upset. It was more like, all right, it's over. Like that era is over now. Like it was moving on. And I mean, yeah, absolutely. That trade worked out just fine for the Celtics. It ended up with Tatum and Brown being Celtics and another title. So, but yeah, that's a good question. But that's one I can really remember. My daughter was just starting to like basketball when the Celtics traded Isaiah Thomas for Kyrie Irving. She didn't have any idea who Kyrie was, but she loved IT because she was very little and she knew who IT was because she could I saw him on the court. He's the little guy, right? Like I like him. And I actually put a video up on it, like when I told her, and she just sobbed for like an hour. Like she was so upset. And honestly, she still hasn't come back around on liking basketball since then.
Wow.
So,
got crushed.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough.
For me, I remember my daughter was upset when Kyle Kuzma got traded. But I remember not liking that they traded Nick Van Exel. I remember not liking that at all. But the Shaq trade, I remember the whole thing with the Shaq trade. Because I was just like, that's not enough. They didn't get it. Just feeling like they got a raw deal. They didn't get anywhere near enough back from it for him. And knowing that like that, it wasn't just that they traded Shaq. It was knowing that they traded Shaq and they got the worst end of the deal. Knowing that was happening. That I think was even more frustrating than the fact that they were trading Shaq.
I can see that. Yeah, I mean, in the end, it kind of. I mean, even just Lamar Odom though, right, ended up being such a huge part of getting a couple titles. So I get that part of it. But yeah, I mean, that was at the time I remember that. But that was one where that was the first time when I really fully like hammered home for me. Basketball trades aren't always about basketball.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about dude, we have to get him out of here. Like we just gotta get him out of here. We picked Kobe. Kobe's our guy, and we're going for there. So yeah, that part I get. Somebody said Zubac for Mike Muscala.
Oh my God. I mean,
Man,
that
that
was
was bad
bad.
in the moment.
That was
Like,
where you knew
yeah,
instantly that was bad. And Zoo was a guy that I liked a lot. So that was but it wasn't like he was like the guy, but still that was another one. Like, what the hell are they doing?
yeah.
Type of moves. That was like Mozgov and Dang and stuff. We're even at the second they signed it, you're going, what are they doing? Like what they've lost their minds. That was that type of moment for sure. God, I've had too many of those. All right, let's go. Let's go here. Is Rui for Bogdanovich? That's a rumor that's out there. A positive for the Lakers.
If Vanderbilt is healthy
There it is.
and Dorian Finney-Smith is locked in, yeah, I would do that. You save a little bit of money each of the next couple years. Bogdanovich, I think, fills a bigger need. It also gives you insurance if like Connect just isn't ready come playoff time. You
Mm-hmm.
can put Bogdanovich out there and run forward with that. So yeah, I would be okay with doing that. It's my issue would be they're just very different players, right? Rui is
Sure.
a true combo forward. Bogdanovich is a true perimeter wing. So it would a lot depend on like, am I going to get Vanderbilt the rest of the season? Is Finney-Smith going to be okay? If they are, then yeah, I'd probably look at that.
Do you buy that Bogdanovich shooting woes are mostly just a result of small sample size and maybe recovering from injury? And that, I mean, he's only played I think 24 games and been out the last 3, interestingly.
Yeah.
But
There is some thought out there. Sorry to interrupt you.
uh
That he's out because it's like they're holding him out because they're going to trade him.
because they're going to trade him. Yeah,
That has been out there. Yeah, I am a little nervous about the shooting. Like, is this? I will say he doesn't look like he has as much lift on his jumper, and maybe there is an injury thing there. And that would be one where obviously, if I'm the Lakers, before I say yes, it's like I need his medicals. Like I have to see them because I'm not trading a good rotation player, starter level guy in Rui for a guy who they may not end up playing.
yeah.
For me, if he's going to be out, then it's saving $1 million or whatever is not worth that.
No, definitely not. Prediction on where Jimmy and Fox land. Love the show. I started with Jimmy to the Warriors, so I think I'm going to stay there. In spite of the Suns' efforts, it just doesn't. I just can't find a destination for Bradley Beal that makes sense. So I'm going to say Jimmy to the Warriors, and I'll stick with Fox to the Spurs.
I'm still going to say Jimmy to the Suns. I think they're going to find a place for Bradley Beal before all is said and done. And
That Beal
Fox
wants.
to the Spurs. Yeah. Obviously, because if he
I mean,
doesn't
do
want
they?
it, he'll just say no.
What do they? They get some big what do you call enforcers to go kind of like
Yeah.
hover over. But
Yeah.
hey, you really want to waive that no trade clause, right?
Yeah, it would be something else. But no, I don't know. I mean, they just seem so motivated to get it done. But we'll see. I maybe another team jumps in. I feel more confident from Fox to San Antonio than I do
Yeah.
Butler to the Suns. It's just, like we've said all the time, it doesn't matter how great of a deal the Heat Suns put together, how happy Jimmy Butler is. If Bradley Beal doesn't get traded, it is, there. It's not that I think a team will want Bradley Beal. I just think a team will take him on and they'll be compensated to do so.
Yeah. I just, it's not that. Yeah, it's not like look, if Bradley Beal was making $30 million a season and didn't have a no trade clause, this is totally different. It's not that he's a bad basketball player, and that's
Sure.
what often gets, bleeds into that conversation. Does a $400K difference in trade really matter for a Jimmy for Paul George swap?
Yeah, it does. Every dollar
for
matters.
League rules.
Yep. If you're going to be, so you take back $1 more in a trade, you trigger a first apron hard cap. That's why Paul, it's fine. Jimmy Butler into Philadelphia. He makes $400K less than Paul George does, but it's that $400K coming in. The Heat are already over the first apron. That would trigger a first apron hard cap, and that gets stuck. So That's it. Even a dollar matters.
Alex said Wizards look super awful right now, but have been seen as sellers at the deadline. Is there any chance they buy? Have you heard anything on the Wiz? I
They're not
mean,
gonna buy. No,
no. Like if there was a young player out there they could somehow get that's part of their long term future, sure.
sure.
But otherwise, no. They're going to be so there. I mean, they're having a terrible season. Obviously, the worst
Yeah.
record in the NBA. They'll get a good high pick and go from there. But they're going to try to take guys like Kyle Kuzma and Valanciunas and Malcolm Brogdon and see what they can find out there on the market. And I think that's going to be the plan for them. And man, that was it was hard watching as the opposing team. It was hard watching that game last night, Keith.
Awful. And Alex Sarr's not playing right now. He's dealing with a little injury. So yeah, it is brutal to watch them. They are the closest thing we have to the traditionally bad team at the trade deadline, which is we've got some tradable vets. We'll trade them. We'll take on bad salary. That's how we'll add to our return. Like, don't be surprised if you see a deal where Kyle Kuzma gets traded for a player on a longer contract that's bad, and that's how the Wizards get like a really good first out of it, because that's how you plus up your return, because we're willing to take on money. They're 100% willing to take on the money. With that, they are really open to, we'll eat your bad contracts. We'll go with that. They've got enough clearance under the tax too. Let me check to see exactly where it is this morning. They're about almost 12 million under the tax line. So that is enough room to take on a little bit more money in trade. So yeah, I think they're 100% going to do that, because it just makes sense. They said it. They're still in deconstruction phase with this roster. And it's as bad as they are and as hard as they are to watch, at least in my opinion, they're doing it the right way by playing their kids as many minutes as they can handle. And that's better than the teams that are awful, that we're running our vets out there all the time and, losing all these games. But the problem is they are not just losing. I mean, they're like the loss of the Lakers. That's not even an aberration. Like, that happens to them once a week.
And that was without AD, without Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, there was a skeleton crew of a Lakers lineup too. Like,
I mean, they are really, really terrible. So, but they're not going to buy. Probably not for a couple of years yet. Let's see.
Anything out of Memphis? I mean, there was some stuff about maybe they'd be willing to move Marcus Smart, and I'm sure they would look for a wing. Yeah, that's been something. So maybe there's something there, but I also don't think they have to make. Like, Memphis has been good. They got a nice win last night over the Rockets. The Rockets didn't have Sengun, but the Grizzlies didn't have John Morant. So, but I don't think Memphis has to make a move, but I think it could. They might need a little bit to kind of be right there with OKC, but they're not far enough off to where I'm not sure if just chemistry and cohesiveness over the rest of the season can't get them there. But I do think if there's a move to make, it's probably turning Marcus Smart and whatever else, whether it's Luke Kennard or John Conchar or something like that, into a wing that can provide some defense and some shooting and everything. And Keith, I still love Jimmy to Memphis, and I wish he would come around on that too.
That came back up as they're not completely out on doing it. So I'd be extremely careful with that. Like, that just feels like it would be really worrisome thing if I was the Grizzlies. But we'll see. I did go through a couple things, just reading up from their local reporters, some other national reports, and yeah, I mean, Smart probably could be on the move. He really hasn't given them anything in his year plus there because of all the injuries. So they're not invested in him necessarily. That did not go the way they wanted it to. So I do think, I mean, that's $20 million too, if I'm right on his salary. So that's a lot of money, matching salary that you can send the other way. And that is, pretty good stuff. 21.6 next year. That's not as good, but if you're sending them out with a pick, that could get you something. So
Zubats is my favorite baby Laker. I remember being so high on Zubats. I remember arguing with people. He's been great. I remember arguing with people, Zoo versus D'Angelo Russell, which one had the better long-term future and all of that, way back in the day, and landing on the Zoo side, which didn't look good for a long time, but does right now. Jeremy, top 3 landing spots for Cam Johnson. I look at teams that have a clear hole at forward like Indy or need a larger forward like OKC. Yeah, and I wonder what all this stuff with De'Aaron Fox does to because the Kings were the team we were hearing all the time. We're in on Cam Johnson,
Yeah.
and I wonder what all the De'Aaron Fox stuff does to that if that all kind of gets put on the back burner because now they got to deal with the Fox situation.
Yep. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be the Kings now. I think I would look at Orlando should be in the mix for Cam Johnson. I think he would be perfect there because he could do a lot of different things and you do different stuff. Then I think you would go into a spot. Yeah, OKC makes sense for him. And I kind of wonder if there is some other spot there. Hey, let me address. There's an argument happening in the chat, and it's playing out in all caps for some.
Oh boy, that way you know they're serious.
That's it. Yeah, these guys are.
Well, while you're doing that, I have to put out the Lakers injury report. So
there you go. So I'll clear this up. You cannot do an unbalanced trade, meaning a 3-for-1 trade where you bring in 2 players you don't want, waive them, and then complete the trade. It doesn't work that way. You have to have the roster spots to complete the trade to do that. So what would happen is you send your one guy out, you would have to open up 2 roster spots or have them already open. There are some teams sitting on open roster spots where you would bring in those 3 players. Then you bring in the 3 players. Then you could waive them right after you bring them in. But you have to have the roster spots available to complete a trade. You can't bring guys in and say, we're just going to waive them anyway. It doesn't work that way. That would be an illegal trade and would not get approved. So what the trade machines are going to tell you is they're going to tell you ours included on Spot Track. It'll give you a little note saying Team X must waive, a player. If you do an unbalanced trade, ESPN's will just push it through. It will be a legal trade from the salary matching point, but it is not going to be at the end result a legal trade. You would have to open the roster spots up there. So that hopefully that clears that up, and you can all stop yelling at each other.
There you go. Look at that, Keith breaking up fights.
Just want peace, man. It's Friday afternoon. It's we're getting late in the day. Let's just all chill out.
Let's chill.
Too much to go into the weekend angry.
And now let's talk about my Lakers Nation sponsor, Via. Rockets might help the situation. I don't know. Rockets get Lonzo and Zach LaVine. I don't know if the Rockets don't want to do a big enough move to go get Zach. I don't think
that's a big
Just stopping right there, like not even going further into it. Like I don't think the Rockets want to make that big of a move with their roster. I think they like the roster they want right now. They've got right now. I don't think they're swapping out enough pieces to go get like Zach LaVine right now.
Yeah, I don't hate the value in this trade. I think the value is pretty close with that. So yeah, I would think they would do that. So that part I think is okay. I just don't think they want to do this right now. If I'm the Rockets, but there's been some people keep saying is there going to be a player that pops up that will entice them enough? Is De'Aaron Fox, who is from the Houston area, is that close enough and they feel good? Like, then let's make that trade, for Fox. And he kind of doesn't land in San Antonio, but he lands in Houston. So, we'll see with that one. I think, but I don't know. The news on Fred VanVleet, a couple people have been putting that out there with what's going on. Jake Fisher had a report on this, I think, or might have been Mark Stein. Sometimes it gets confusing which one of them's writing what. But the Rockets are very likely to decline his team option, but they're going to decline that to sign him to a longer deal. So what they'll do is they'll take that number, instead of it being 40 million, they'll knock it down into the high 20s, 30 million range, free up some flexibility for themselves and tack more years onto it. They love VanVleet. They're very happy with him. Hasn't always played great for them, but they're very happy with what he's brought them. Just professionalism, and kind of go from there with that.
All right, let's jump over here. Love the content out of all. Well, thank you for that, Isaac. Out of all these young teams, which has the best future? There's a lot of teams with bright futures, but I mean, the first team I think of is the Thunder, right? Yeah. I mean, just with the pieces they've already got and the future, the picks that they've got and everything else there. I mean, that team is set.
Yeah, OKC, Houston.
Hmm.
I don't know how young we're still concerned, but Memphis-ish in that range. I
Sure.
think Detroit has a bright future just because I'm not high on Cade Cunningham. I
He's been
think he
great.
can be really good
All-star
at.
Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, all-star. Yep. I think Orlando has a really bright future. They gotta figure out the shooting if they want to go somewhere. San Antonio, obviously, because of Wemby.
Hmm.
Super bright future there. So yeah, I will say this though, because this is the one thing I am worried about, just because we were talking about the Rockets a minute ago. This tweet just came in. Dante Exum's going to play tonight, so good for the
There we go.
Mavericks to get Dante Exum back. He has not played yet this year. So, to go back to the Rockets though, I'm all about let's see what we have, but don't wait too long because it's very easy to say we're super young. We have this decade long runway. It rarely works out that way in the NBA. It is usually your window is 4 or 5 years when you're on the young end, and even shorter as you get older. So it just becomes a thing where just be careful. Don't go crazy with, waiting too long to do it because that's the hardest single thing to, I think, get right is pushing in too early versus waiting too long. Because you
Mhm.
go too early, it never comes, and your window never gets there. If you wait too long, that window is already closed before you even knew it was open. So just be careful, as you kind of put that together. That's my one thing, and it's just
Got to
you got to
time
know,
everything
got
just
to get it
right.
right. Yep,
Hmm.
yep.
Spurs reporter Dusty Garza tweeting the Fox deal's almost done. How credible is he? I honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to comment on it because I don't know. But I mean, yeah, while you were answering a question, I was scrolling through TweetDeck a little bit, and I'm seeing a handful of people retweeting stuff, but I'm not seeing the bigger stuff. What this could be, and I don't want to get everybody all fired up and excited for no reason, but let's have fun. It's Friday. Maybe they know it's almost done, but they don't have any of the details. And now what it's going to be is the details are going to come from the bigger reporters, right? From a Shams,
Could
from a
be.
Stein, from a somebody else. Sometimes that's how that happens. So we'll see, with that. But I don't know, and I would not read too much into who follows who because I periodically going in, I'm like, how did I hit follow on this person? Like, and I don't, know why. And every once in a while, I'll say it, I fat fingered it, and that's how I followed them. But just I wouldn't read too much into that.
All right. Doug, not Dave McMenamin said, Keith, you had said keeping 14 million in cap is a mistake.
Yep.
What are the good options for the Pistons then? What they want to keep their core guys together, and Ivy's been great.
Yeah, just you can't finish the trade deadline. We can't be doing front office Friday next week talking about how the Pistons still have 14 million in cap space. That's a mistake. Either eat a deal for assets if you're not ready to go get real guys who can help. That's perfectly fine. If that's Detroit's decision on, we're okay with the progress we've made this year. We're not ready to go trade for a $40 million player. We don't feel like we're there. I don't have a huge issue with that, but then go eat a couple deals. Go eat a couple deals where you're gonna get a couple guys. So I think that is I would definitely go that direction. And then I would think the other option is go get a guy, right? Like do your own version of pre-agency and go get somebody, but it can't be you cannot go all in for I'll use him as the example because he's on an expiring deal. Don't go all in on Brandon Ingram with the assumption of, yeah, we're just going to let him walk in the summertime. It
Yeah.
has to be go get a guy that then you feel like this guy can be here for the next few years at a minimum and go in that direction. So you just cannot sit on that cap space after the deadline. That would be a huge mistake.
All right, let's go here, Robert. We will do rapid fire through the last few here. Isn't it weird how a report came out yesterday about the Pacers not looking to trade Mathurin and not for Turner? It's smoke season, baby, right?
Yep.
That's what's going on, right? There's reports, there's counter reports to those reports, and you got to remember, where do you think maybe it's coming from? Who benefits by this getting out there? A lot of times teams see something gets out in the media, they quickly, they put something out, they whoever they put something out to kind of push back against that or whatever. It's just kind of the leverage play back and forth going on. And it's part of what I love about this time of year, is seeing how teams maneuver through all of this.
Sure. And also, sometimes what happens is you start seeing a handful of reports of, hey, maybe they could move Miles Turner. And the Pacers are like, let's put an end to this right now. We are not doing that. But these two players were open to, potentially moving instead. And I continue to hear from other teams. I've also talked to, people closer to it. Miles Turner it's not that he's untouchable. The Pacers, every intention is we're going to find a way to keep him in the fold. I think there it is. What's up with
And then
Miles
just
Turner to
a
the Lakers?
right.
Yeah, I
And
think,
that's why there's news about like Obi Toppin or some of the other
yep,
wings that they'll try to
yeah,
go that
Bennett
route instead.
Mathurin, Aaron Nesmith.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about this on yesterday's show. Pacers, not that keeping him for 10 years means he's there forever. That certainly doesn't mean that, but I do think there is something to, hey, we haven't hung on this long just to kind of, start moving. So we'll see.
Thoughts on the Hawks? Brandon Ingram,
Yeah,
and the
it was kind
Brandon
of
Ingram to the Hawks.
fun.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Um,
I get it if the Hawks are like, we need to reverse this slide. We
and
think
we just
BI
lost
can
Jalen
be,
Johnson.
yeah, and BI can be part of, what we're gonna do. Again, you're not trading for Brandon Ingram to the Hawks are not close enough that Brandon Ingram pushes them over the top for anything
Right.
beyond maybe getting into the playoffs. Like that should not be enough to make a major trade. But if you're thinking, yeah, we can get Brandon Ingram and then re-sign him to a reasonable deal and move forward, sure. Yeah, why not? Right? Go get it done. I have no issue with that at all. I think there are constructions where that makes a lot of sense for Atlanta to go get him.
Nate said any GM in the league with enough job security to buy low on Zion.
Sam Presti,
Yeah, right.
sure could, yeah. And I
But
mean, that's just me playing fantasy here. I
that's
would
not.
love
Yeah.
that. Like that would be just incredible. And they're the one team that could very easily say, all right, we can put the salaries together, and if it doesn't work, we just waive them and move on.
Right.
With that. But yeah, I'm okay, with that one if they wanted to go. Man, there's
I wonder if it would take more of than the general manager with the job security. Like,
Tatum
what
checking.
owner is willing to take that kind of a risk? You know what I mean? What owner it wants to roll the dice really? Like that. That's probably more what it would come down to.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're not getting them with the idea, well, we'll just waive them next summer. Like that would be absolute bonkers with that. So yeah, I mean, there are certain teams that should try. Sorry,
Good
that
timing
was
there.
another sneeze.
Good
But
timing.
I think
Yeah.
I got it muted again.
You got like 90% of it
bit.
muted. We caught maybe
All
just
right.
the beginning
Good
there.
to know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would. There are certain teams I would make a run at Zion just because. Well, why not? Right?
Yeah.
Like what else do we have really going for us? And with the idea of if it's not working out a year from now, we can just kind of move on and reset if we needed to. But yeah, it would have to be buy low. I'm not giving up anything real package, and I don't think there would be any major reason for the Pelicans to trade him either. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Three-way trade: the Nets, Detroit, and OKC. Cam Johnson and Stu to OKC. Okay. Dort and Clowney to Detroit, and Wiggins and Kenrich Williams and Jang, and 2 firsts to OKC.
No, that's too many key guys for the Thunder.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why are the Thunder moving all those pieces?
The Thunder love Kenrich Williams. He's like their guy. I know this sounds crazy. He is of equal importance to them as some of the other main guys that they have on that roster. They are not gonna move him. It would have to be part of a major upgrade there. I get it. Cam Johnson and Isaiah Stewart would be good. We didn't talk about that. Isaiah Stewart got suspended. He's already triggered the flagrant foul point suspension.
He triggered something else towards the bench there.
It's true. Yeah. He's, there's a point where if I'm the Pistons, I need to be having a conversation with him of, hey, we love that you go out there, you play so hard, you play super aggressive. We don't have in mind that you're willing to knock guys around a little bit. But while we're playing real basketball with real stakes here, you can't be getting yourself suspended. Just cannot happen. Like, you need to be on the floor for us. You're too important. We can't go there. Yeah, so I'll pull this up. Is Kenrich there? Udonis Haslam to an extent, yeah. It's not quite there. Udonis Haslam, just for people who don't fully know the story, Udonis Haslam has been played his high school ball in Miami, left for 4 years to go to the University of Florida, which is, I mean, it's far away, but not super far away in the state. Then played 1 year overseas and then came back and spent the rest of his life in Miami. He's not just a Miami Heat legend, like he's a Miami basketball legend.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say Kenrich Williams is to that level, but they love him in Oklahoma City. He's a huge tone setter for them. He is the one who really kind of runs the locker room in a way where it is, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that. And he was a big part of let's get us through let's get us through these tough times when they were rebuilding. So just, they're not going to just throw him into a trade to make it work.
All right, let's go here. If you're Sac and Miami sends you Jovic and Phoenix sends you 2 picks, Jimmy goes to Phoenix and Fox to Miami. If you're Sacramento, so you get Jovic and a couple of picks for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, but how does Jimmy get to Phoenix? Like, what is?
Yeah, where's Bradley Beal going?
Like, yeah,
that's always the big question for Jimmy to get to Phoenix. Bradley Beal has to go somewhere.
I mean, sure, why not? Right? Like, if I'm Sacramento, sure, but it's not going to be a thing. He's not going to go to Sacramento. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to be how that goes down.
Doug, now Dave gets some sleep this weekend. The last you'll get. That's right. We'll see. If we even get this weekend, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Kevin, given that it's statistically more likely for a first-round pick to be a bust than an all-star, why aren't proven players worth more than a first? Seems to me like Miles Turner or Kessler are no-brain 2-first type players. So I think part of the reason, just in general, not speaking on Miles Turner or Kessler and whether or not they're worth a first-round pick, not talking about that at all, but just talking about in general, why would a first-round pick have that kind of value? Because even though there is that uncertainty, some of the value that comes from a first-round pick is that if you do get a hit on that player, you have them on a contract that is underpaying them for a length of time. So there's that added value to it beyond just you're getting a young player with a bright future and all of that kind of stuff. You also get them on a cost-control contract for what, plus team control into the future and all of that. That's part of the value of the first-round pick, and I think offsets some of the uncertainty that comes with them.
Yeah, and first-round picks can be anything.
Yeah.
Right? There's always the chance that they end up being the next Victor Wembanyama if they land in the right year. And that's why teams are always forever going to be reluctant to move them. Now, we have seen some teams, like Phoenix, is like, who cares? Move them if we got to do that to get guys. Let's go. That's a thing that I think we could still see happening. But yeah, it's for the most part, teams don't want to do that because you're right. It's a way to add cost-controlled talent. Now, if you're Boston, for example, they can't really make trades right now as a second apron team. They're not going to do anything significant. But if in a couple years it's like, all right, we got to trade one of the big salary guys because it's time. Well, then you can put picks into a deal to plus it up, because your idea would be, well, we're moving them to kind of rebalance ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. So that becomes, let's do that. And that's where, if the closer you are to contending, the less value your current first round picks in those years have. But that's where you've got to really, how long is it goes back to the window conversation, right? How long is our window? How long are we going to be contenders for? How often, do we think we're going to be in this position again? How quickly can we reset? They have to kind of go into a different place with some of that.
All right. And then this will be quick. Daniel said, would you trade Rui, Max, and Dalton for Miles Turner and Ben Mathurin? I would, but Indy would not.
Correct.
Because they'd be left without a center. Like that. I mean, and beyond just the value, I mean, that's part of the problem. Like,
if you're getting Turner and Mathurin for that, you would need to send both first. And I still don't even know if Indiana does it.
Yeah. And this is like for Indiana, the challenge for Indiana is that there's not that many three-point shooting bigs in the NBA. I know there's, the NBA is the three-point revolution and all of that. There's not that many of them that do it well. And there's really not that many that protect the rim and can shoot the three on the other end. So it's such a drastic change to your team to turn Miles Turner even into another center. But if you're doing it in a deal that doesn't even have another center coming back, I mean, Indiana wants to win. They've been winning games. It's not going to work for them if they're not getting a big back. And again, even just getting a big back might not be. That's still going to be chaotic for their team because you'd have to change so much about the way that you play.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. I mean, that's why they've been very clear if we do a trade that involves Miles Turner, we need a center back there, and I don't know that they necessarily are in that direction. No, we covered Nusky fam said you
We
forgot.
did
We
it.
covered it. It was Miles Turner, the Lakers.
Yeah.
We answered it as part of a bigger Miles Turner related conversation.
We did.
We did
Yes,
hit
we
it.
did.
Yeah, there's nothing I'm seeing out there news wise that's needs address. I'm seeing all the same stuff people are seeing that local San Antonio reporters are reporting. It's done, but there's nothing beyond that. I'm not seeing anything that is this is what it will be or anything like that. So last thing I wanted to hit on before we go. I thought the All-Star reserves were okay. I didn't have any, there were no super glaring omissions or super wrong picks for me. I think there is a place with sports where it is, I'm going to be very angry because my guy didn't get picked on the team I root for, but nobody ever wants to say who should be off the team in their place. That's why when I put it on Twitter, who are your snubs, but tell me who you're taking out. I would have had Kyrie Irving on the West team, probably in place of James Harden. That's where I would have gone. I think Sabonis probably should have been maybe in more consideration, but I understand why Alper and Şengün got it. They're so good. You can't. I don't think you could have the Rockets not see a individual all-star selections are also a team reward. And that's where, I think there. Now I'll say this too. Kyrie's got the back thing. I'm sure Dallas is like, great. We're happy. Like we would have been excited and all the stuff, but get off your feet for a week.
Yeah.
Go sit at the beach.
Take a week off.
Put your feet up and get ready to go. With that. So I saw a lot of people really pushing and yelling about, why didn't Luka make it? The Magic fans, or why not Banchero or Franz Wagner? None of those guys played enough. Like that's that's the issue. They didn't play enough games. So we don't necessarily want to reward. Well, he played 20 games. Like that's tough. So just like it's. I thought the All-Star selections were largely okay. Not that jumped out at me where I was like, oh my God, these are horrendous. There that they missed. So I'm all right with it.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to be, especially with the current format where you don't wind up with like Jamal McGlure making it or whatever. I mean, this is like no matter what you do, somebody's going to be snubbed and something's going to be upset and there's going to be something to be mad about. No matter how you construct it, doesn't matter.
Yep.
There's always going to be something. So there's a lot of really good players in the league, and that's what it all comes down to. So I'm not going to have a problem with the All-Star. I have more of a problem with the way the All-Star game is played than the All-Star team selections. Yeah,
and I'm willing to give it a chance.
And I hope that changes.
Yeah. Let's see what this new format looks like. I don't know. I'm not, super worried about it. But again, now people are telling us all the guys who should have been in, and they're not. But you're not telling us who should have been off. So, I don't. We could be here for another hour doing that. We're not going to do that. So, let's see. We got a new report out from.
I skimmed through that. The coaching thing. It's just about.
Is that all that one is? Oh, okay.
Is it that one?
Is Stein like he just shared something else again?
Maybe. Oh, maybe there's something else here that I missed. Unless it's the. Yeah. There's nothing in that. Well, I mean, there's not nothing. It's about.
It's the one he already had out there.
It's about Quinn Snyder maybe coaching Australia.
All right. Yeah, so, I did see that one.
Nothing like massive trade related there.
Yeah, there's a bunch. Yeah, I'm now like people are DMing me in chats like, did you see this thing about Fox? Like, and all that. So maybe it is getting close. We'll see. Trevor, maybe we'll be hopping back on here in another hour or two.
Never know. Well, I've got an errand to run, so I'm going to go do that.
There you go. Go do that.
That means it's going to happen.
Yep. As soon as you are the furthest point from the house away, that's when it'll go down.
That's when it's going to happen. That's when it's going to happen. All right, everybody. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. We appreciate all of you. Please make sure you do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Until next time, see ya and stay safe.